Hello and welcome to the Animation Kimmunication podcast, your source for discussion about animation, film, fandom, and more. So please join your host, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, or KP, and Lauren Kizich, the Abbey Roadie, for today's discussion. If you like what you hear, please remember to support by giving a like, a follow, as well as subscribing to the main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube. Spread the word and keep being a part of a great community. This episode contains some mild adult language.
Hi everyone, welcome to probably the most popular Animation Kimmunication episode it's probably going to be the most popular one in like the span of like 4 months or so, because people are hyped for this thing that it's all over the internet, and yeah, Animaniacs, yay. So
it's finally here. 2020 gifted us something good, and then that was the return of Animaniacs.
We did it. So I'm KP as usual, and then Lauren's here as usual.
Yep. Hello.
And then we have back CellSpex, who probably, I think this is your first time returning, right? Since Onward.
Yep, that sounds about right.
And that was before just before COVID time.
Everything.
Before the Fire Nation attacked.
Before the Rona
Oh my
Nation
god,
attacked.
I watched that in a movie theater.
Yeah, to think that was the last movie. Pretty much that was the last movie before COVID was Onward. That we saw in theaters. So, so wow. But yeah, it's great to have you back, Cell. And what a great topic to discuss as well. Now that we've all, actually, as of recording this episode right now, the new Animaniacs has only come out like just the day before. If not, you want to say 9 p.m. PST on Thursday night, which so that was nice that they actually kind of operated on the actual time difference, that they said, okay, if it's going to be midnight for the East Coasters, then it's still going to be 9 p.m. for the West Coasters. So anyway, so I technically got a little head start on Thursday.
Yeah, but I didn't know it dropped until it was all over my feed, and I'm just like, wait, I thought it was dropping Saturday. I math is hard.
Yeah, no, it was gonna be midnight going into Friday. So they wanted to make sure it was the 20th. So it's just the West Coasters got it 3 hours earlier, just because they were posting it based off of Eastern time.
Which I appreciate, just because when you see, I keep on waiting in other streaming sites. I usually try to wait till midnight to see if they upload it, but Netflix like uploads things at like 4 a.m.
They want us to suffer.
Yeah, this time Hulu did the right thing by posting at midnight.
All right, before we go into our discussion, and then we have a couple of headlines, Sel, you want to just give a super short, what do you do on the internet? So for people who are like, who is this person? Why are they talking? So.
Oh, I have a channel. That is all.
Basically, if you want a mini bio, just go back to our Onward episode, people.
You have the internet.
Episodes.
We know.
You have the internet. There's a link in the description. Click on it.
Google it. Everything.
So we have a couple of headlines, and if you don't care about those, you can skip those. And I guess we'll just do some light spoiler after that, or spoiler free, and then we'll get into the spoiler, because I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't seen it yet, but I guess in case you're just like, what do they have to say before I watch it? Is there anything I should be reading about beforehand? And
well, yeah, and I think by the time this episode posts, I feel like enough people will have gotten through it. It's only 13 episodes, just as a heads up for anybody who hasn't taken a dive into this yet. But I mean, honestly, you shouldn't be listening to this podcast if you haven't watched any of it yet. And even so, it's 13 episodes. They're each about, I want to say, 22 to 24 minutes each. Yeah, I mean, I got through them pretty easy. But yeah, I mean, by the point that this episode airs, which I'm assuming it's gonna be, I don't know how soon we're gonna try and post this.
We're doing this right away, so it will drop this week, Lauren.
Oh, okay. So that
You're
should
good.
Be a few days is enough time for you guys to catch up, right?
it's fine. What else you gotta do? It's COVID, you know.
It's
So when
13
did-
episodes.
You're-
Compared to what we usually get, that's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Not 3 seasons that you have to catch up on or anything, so you're good.
Okay, so Lauren, what are the headlines that we gotta talk about beforehand?
Yeah, so first of all, we had the trailer finally drop for the Tom and Jerry movie, which is we kind of briefly touched on this before. It was only when a snippet of the trailer got leaked online from French cinema. So it was basically somebody had gone into a French theater, they saw the trailer, and they grabbed whatever they could with their phone and posted it online. Now we had the actual English trailer drop this week. And so far, it took me a few watches to kind of figure out how the animation was done. Because sometimes with the timing on the animation, because actually how it is, looking at it, Tom and Jerry are actually 3D animated with 2D cell shading, and then they still applied kind of like how a lot more 2D, or I should say CG animated films are doing them, that they're animating it as they would with squash and stretch and on, different frame rates and stuff like that based off of like traditional
Paperman.
animation. Yeah. So, yeah, it is like Paperman, except I think it's even more seamless in the Tom and Jerry aspect because of the cell shading. And actually, a good example of this shown early on for CG animation put into to live action, I have to say, is the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie from 1998, 99? I think it was 99.
Oh god, that wasn't that couldn't have been 90s, right? That had to have been 2000s.
No, it was like cusp. I think it was like borderline, like end of the 90s going into the 2000s. It was one of those ones that kind of teetered. But it's very reminiscent of that based on the tone of the trailer alone. But where it's like, it's got a source material. They've worked with a source material and they're trying to be true to it, while at the same time they're mixing in, the B, I'm going to say it's the B subplot kind of thing with the live action characters. Because that's not what's really going to be the driving force. It's Tom and Jerry, beating each other senseless. So that's what we're here for. And so far, based on the trailer, it seemed to deliver on quite a bit of that. So I'm hopeful, at least in terms of the Tom and Jerry content that we'll get out of the movie. Live action stuff, I'm it's just, it's a vessel, as somebody pointed out to me. I think it was Chrissy, actually, who said, it's only a vessel. Nobody watches for the live action stuff, really. They watch for the Tom and Jerry, or they watch for the cartoon aspects. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So any thoughts on that? Any of you guys get to watch the trailer?
Do we need more Tom and Jerry stuff? Like really?
Hey, you got to keep the IP alive.
I guess, but can we do it in a more creative way than just Smurfs, but Tom and Jerry? Yeah.
Oh, but this isn't. I'm going to actually be devil's advocate.
You're gonna defend Tom and Jerry.
Well, this Tom and Jerry I will defend purely because they actually make Tom and Jerry look like their cartoon counterparts rather than freakish real world versions of them, like making them look like a real cat and a real mouse. So, I mean, the Smurfs, on the other hand, were not that until they did the reboot,
those
which
things
was fully
were
animated.
ugly.
Yeah, so it's not like what they did with the Chipmunks or the Smurfs. It's like, no, they actually make them look like cartoon characters in the real world, a la Roger Rabbit and that Rocky and Bullwinkle movie kind of thing. And apparently they're not the only cartoon animals in that world, according to this movie, that other animals in that universe are also cartoony. So it seems like this is a universe where real life people and cartoon animals coincide. Again, Roger Rabbit. So I think that's pretty cool. Interesting take. But yeah, it's...
you got the Hanna-Barbera IP. You might as well use it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And at least with this, again, it's the gist of the movie is going to be we are all going to focus on the cartoon violence. That's what we want. and it seems to have a lot of good stuff in the trailer. So here's hoping that there's plenty more of that in the movie going forward.
So, you got any thoughts?
Um, the always thing with these kinds of films is that while that's accurate, it's still being in that vein of live action. Like, I get that the technology of putting that cell shaded material on top of live action, like that's a genuinely interesting angle technology wise, and to see how smoothly they're interacting. What's always kind of the issue in those kinds of movies, we've gotten a lot of these by now, the live action with the CGI character movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that is that while we're not there for the live action people still always take up way too much screen time. And they always tend to
Yeah.
be a giant anchor down on those movies. So that movie is, while I can't say what it's going to be like, but that movie is going to live or die depending on exactly how much Tom and Jerry they actually give us versus how much their time they're going to spend on the live characters, and also how well those characters are implemented. But just by history, they don't always tend to be very implemented well. What I can say is that the advantage that this will have as opposed to all of the other ones is that Tom and Jerry don't talk. So
Yeah, thank God for
that is a
that.
good chunk of dialogue that we don't need to worry about them writing, because the big problem in a lot of those movies is that they are not funny because the writers are not funny. And the only reason why Sonic has like a mildly more reputable better reputation than a lot of those other movies is because I think the Deadpool guy came in and touched up the dialogue so that it was actually funny.
Right.
In so many of those other movies, the dialogue is just not funny. So, and
No.
we don't need to
I mean,
worry
what
about that for at least Tom and Jerry in this movie. So,
yeah. And at
fingers
least
crossed, but
actually,
skeptical.
yeah, and at least what I can actually say, because it's a lot of these are kind of like you look at him in hindsight, and especially after maybe like when I was a kid when like say the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie came out. But as a kid, I wasn't super familiar with Rocky and Bullwinkle because it wasn't as easy an avenue to watch that stuff at that point.
Oh yeah.
But nowadays, in the days of streaming and online and everything, where everybody can upload cartoons and you can just you have the wealth of animation history at your fingertips, that you kind of can watch these things, and then once you look back on these products at the time, especially like Rocky and Bullwinkle, it's actually surprisingly faithful to its source material of all the things.
In comparison to a lot of the other ones, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, so even then, putting it into the real world, they make the real world about as wacky as the cartoon one in a sense. So it's just in terms of what can actually fly in their quote real world in that universe. And I just think it's funny, and it's very much aware, and it doesn't take itself seriously, just like Rocky and Bullwinkle never took itself seriously, and was very much aware that sometimes the jokes were terrible and corny and cheesy and just like, and sometimes would fall flat. So they'll be like, hey, it couldn't land every joke, and just absolutely absurd and loving it. And I think that's what's, I'm like, this is why I'm like, oh, okay, well, if we can actually get more movies like that are actually truly, genuinely, aware of their own source material, that'd be great. Like, even though it's not animated, I would say another one that was roughly around the same time was the George of the Jungle movie. You look back on that and you actually see, like, the tone, at the very least, the tone of the movie, when you look back on the show in comparison, it's very similar, because it was aware it's got corny humor and it's fourth wall breaking. And I mean, well, it's also, these were the all from the pretty much the same era of show and similar show creators and writers. And so I then again, was George of the Jungle related to Rocky and Bullwinkle in any way?
It was. George of the Jungle was at least part of a segment, maybe not of Rocky and Bullwinkle, but the origin was definitely a segment on one of those kinds of shows.
Okay, because I do remember, it's Mr. Peabody and Sherman, like, and then Dudley Do-Right. I do remember they were all part of that group, but I was trying to remember if George of the Jungle fell under that same umbrella, because the writing is very much like Rocky and Bullwinkle. But yeah, so yeah, if we could get more movies like that where they actually do care about their source material and adapting it well.
Well, at the end of the day, like, it was just funny. That was just, in comparison to a lot of kids' live movies, that was actually funny.
Yeah, exactly. And then, okay, so I guess the other headline, since we can't, as much as I'd like to dwell more on Tom and Jerry, the other headline we do have is really cool. Some footage was leaked online from this upcoming movie that's being distributed by Netflix called Arlo the Alligator Boy. And it's supposed to be an animated musical film that will precede a 20-episode series based on the same property. And some footage was leaked of that. And it was one of the musical sequences. And so far, it looks like freaking gorgeous. The animation's really smooth. The colors are really vibrant. And it just seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And it seems like the crew that everybody was responding to on the post, because it was leaked on Twitter, it seems like a lot of the crew is really passionate about what they're doing with the movie. So I'm very excited to see where we'll see where they go with it. The movie's supposed to be coming out next year on Netflix. So we'll see if any more footage comes out in the meantime.
Yeah, I will just put my 2 cents in. Is like I'm as a nitpick, I'm personally not the biggest fan of the character designs for this, but like everything else is like spot on, like really pretty. Like for those who haven't seen it, it's basically, I don't know what like biology term it is, where like the sea, like it has this bioluminescence like bacteria thingy above. They did an episode about it in Bob's Burgers, I think.
It's bioluminescence.
yeah,
it's
okay.
bioluminescent algae.
Okay, so it was based around that, and like that has a lot of opportunities for color and making pretty scenes, but like I don't know, I'm a little more skeptical than Lauren, because I'm just like, Alligator Boy, huh? Like, I wonder if this is gonna pan out, or is it just gonna be silly? Like, you can't.
I think it's gonna have a lot more heart than what people may think by even. And I understand where the character designs may be like a little off-putting for somebody who's not used to it or anything like that. I get there's a lot of people that are thinking the same thing, I'm sure. But I feel like this could have a lot more heart than what we're thinking it'll have.
I just have this idea in my brain where it's just like half boy, half gator, all heart, you know, like come see the like a mock of a trailer essentially. If only they didn't replace your limbs with gator parts when you got into that car accident, Alligator Boy, you know, essentially.
For the record, for the audience, Arlo the Alligator Boy is, I mean, I guess to briefly sum it up, is about a boy who is literally, you know, half human, half gator, and he's off to find his birth father. That's as much I think that's been disclosed about the story, and you know that's totally fine, because I'm curious as to see how it will surprise me. It's basically him and his friends going on a journey, or the friends he will make, and it's him on his quest.
It's not it's the friends you make along the way. Okay, I'm running out of corny things to say. So,
but anyway, so Cell, did you happen to see that little teaser footage at all, or?
I didn't get a chance. I kind of glanced at it. I didn't get a chance to listen to the song. I'm very impressed by the movement.
Mm-hmm.
That all looks great. So I always appreciate people who at least try to make musicals. Especially animated ones. And again, I haven't heard it. The feedback seems to be very positive, and I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see new people do new things. And I know that the designs will throw people off, but at the end of the day, its staying power will be the content. I mean, honestly, are these that weirder than like regular show?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, one of the things I remember about Big Mouth when it first came out is seeing ads. I'm just like, oh god, who approved these character designs? They look like disgusting garbage, but people are responding.
I get it.
In the end, people respond to the writing, and so that's what keeps people around.
There's so much animated stuff that got a following that looks terrible.
Yeah. Amen. All right. I guess we can move on to the piece de resistance, or whatever French term I can think of right now. So let's dive into it. So who wants to go first, as far as just general first impression thoughts?
You're more than welcome to go first. I didn't know.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna
your...
say, I mean, I liked it. I was doing some deep digging. I realized that the Warner siblings themselves are kind of more antagonistic than the original show, which I guess makes sense, because they're just. I mean, the other thing too is a lot of the so. For those who didn't see the original Animaniacs, a lot of it was broken up between different shorts, and that is still true for this one, but instead of just a bunch of characters that share the screen time, it's the Animaniacs, it's Pinky and the Brain, and then some weird shorts in the middle that are original, that hit or miss, I guess. They're weird. I don't know, I wasn't a fan of there was one with the yelling gnome or something, where he jumps into people's mouths and just yells things, and it's okay. This is but besides that, it's fine. And I'm on that note, I do like the fact that they did find a way to tie in all of the supporting cast in the episode with the chicken dude person. Even
Chicken
though everyone
Boo.
thought they were dead at first, but then surprise, I guess they were just chilling there even though they didn't blink.
Screw the spoilers. Spoiler alert territory. You're already in it, so
yeah. Well, after your whole thing of oh, they've seen it, I'm just okay, well, let's just get into it.
We'll put
fine.
the disclaimer at the beginning of the video. This thing's got spoilers, so turn back now if you haven't seen any of it. So. But yeah, I loved that. I loved seeing. It's funny because all over social media and in all the different articles and all the different promotions, the crew kept insisting, it's just gonna be, it's just gonna be the Warner siblings, and it's just gonna be Pinky and the Brain and some shorts. It's gonna be heavily reliant on them. And we're not going to see any Minerva Mink. We're not going to see Hello Nurse. We're not going to get Chicken Boo. We're not going to get the Good Feathers. We're not going to get Slappy Squirrel. We're not. They're sorry. It's just they're not going to be there. And turns out they were lying to us this whole time, just for the sake of the one episode where they all make a comeback, even if just for the brief cameo.
Mm-hmm.
It does make me hopeful that maybe they can kind of weave them more into other episodes, as I guess. I don't know if it means.
Yeah, that's what the crew has said. From my understanding, is if they get renewed for more than so currently, because obviously you should know this because it was in the theme song, but there's 2 seasons ordered so far right now, and this is the first one, and they'll drop the other one in the future sometime, I guess next year. But if they get more than that, then they're going to start incorporating more of the entire cast instead of just the 5 of them between Pinky
Which, for
and
the
Brain.
love of God, better mean that Rita and Runt better be back, because so help me God, we gotta get Bernadette Peters back in there.
Bernadette Peters was such a 90s thing too. I'm what's she even doing now?
I mean,
that's kind of the genuine question. It kind of wouldn't be Rita without Bernadette Peters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she sounds no different. Her voice is kind of ageless, so she could still do it.
It's fine. It's fine. What did you guys think of new female CEO lady that is very pointy in her design?
I actually didn't mind. It's kind of funny because I figured that they were going to have to change up some roles there because 22 years past, you can't have the same guy be the CEO there. So it's funny because they have her in a few moments, so she's not. I can't say she's as developed because she doesn't have as much screen time in the episodes we do have. But I do like that she's kind of that cynical the cynical, go-getter kind of person. It's kind of it is kind of funny that she I think it's in the first episode that Dot approaches her, is like saying, do you have any advice to share with another future, like a female CEO? Can you share any advice with another future female CEO? And she's like, no thanks, I'm fine with pulling the ladder up behind me. I'm like, wow. I mean, I feel like that kind of personality can rub off the wrong way, especially in a first interaction with the character that you're establishing in the show. But I kind of like that she's just a shark. So
No, I think it's good that they have a CEO with a different dynamic to the Warners than what they used to have. I mean, if you're gonna mix it up. It's been 22 years.
Exactly.
In terms of, like, they said they were going to get rid of the rest of the cast, but that's the other thing. They said they were going to get rid of the cast, but Ralph is still there. It's like, oh, okay, so he's here. For some reason, they made his outfit gray or brown, or I have no idea why. But I think that was a good replacement in making her callous.
Yeah.
Gives it a good spin on that.
Yeah, and plus, I like her cabinet having like a million different iPads in there.
Because I'm sure it's true. I'm sure that those things. I'm sure they just give those things out and they break all the time. Because I'm sure that's a thing that's actually.
And I do like actually that they did keep Scratch and Sniff in there. He just doesn't show up until like the last episode.
That definitely seems to be what the kind of thing was when they tell people that, the original cast. They really just don't mean expect other shorts starring those casts. Is what they meant, including having a twist for that one episode. And I didn't know that they were planning on implementing them later, but it did seem like after that episode that they might have started introducing them back, and I'm glad to see that. To be perfectly honest, when I first heard that they were going to get rid of the cast, I was like, okay. Because to be perfectly honest, when I was watching the original episodes, I only liked the stuff that had the Warner siblings, Pinky and the Brain, and Slappy. And if it was literally any other cast member, I thought it was a waste of time. So I was fine with that.
I'm kind of in a similar boat,
So I get you with Rita and Runs. I just didn't like. There's a lot of great stuff there. I just didn't think those shorts were very funny. I'm glad. I will be glad to see how they interpret those other ones for 2020. But I also think there's something smart about especially in your first run out in the very first season, just focusing on like those main two and really focusing on getting them right, especially if you're only going to get one season.
And as I also would actually like to bring up, as we don't have the original supporting cast right now so far, beyond cameo, but we do have the addition of some new possible continuing characters that they have introduced in this season. And that includes the CEO, but that also includes the characters like I hope to see more Benedict personally. He was a lot of fun. Benedict the Thespian Dragon.
What an on the nose reference, but he was fantastic.
and then I believe it was her name Julia, right?
Yeah, Julia the mouse was very set up to come back.
That's the implication, and I'm kind of glad because I remember the Piggy and the Brain, them trying to do the love interest thing with Brain before, and I think it was horrible. And I'm already liking the new direction this is going.
Yeah, I love how they established her and then how they left off with her, especially because it seems like she's smart, but she's also compassionate and has a very good head on her shoulders. And Brain is ultimately afraid of that. So she is a perfect foil to him where she is smart, but she also has the compassion that he so often lacks, except in the fleeting moments with Pinky. And so I do, and I have liked seeing Pinky and Brain's interactions in this particular season as well. There was actually even backstory for Brain that I didn't think we would ever get.
He's so cute.
But, oh my God,
I want plushies
poor
of him.
baby.
Like, to be honest, like I didn't go through it right before this went, but did we not have a backstory for him before?
I don't think there was much of one established before.
I feel like we got one before, and like it doesn't bother me if they basically redid it. I just wondered if there was.
Maybe one that wasn't that on the nose, as far as why specifically he, like, that was the vibe I got. I'm not sure. I'm sure there might have been some establishing story about, like, maybe how Pinky and Brain met or whatever, but probably not one about how his ambitions, which, you know, I think, and that's the thing too, because, like, Lauren, did you watch these in reruns when you were little?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because I think I missed the boat. So I watched a little bit of Pinky and the Brain, and I remember that vaguely. I don't remember Animaniacs that much, besides, like, just meta stuff. And I remember, like, things like Hysteria, which, like, was kind of hit or miss. But yeah, I feel like an idiot. But essentially, so what I did is I was just like, these are neat characters. I forgot how neat these characters were. Let me, like, did they ever have an establishing moment where, like, Pinky and Brain, like, care about each other really, like, genuinely? And then I found the Christmas special, and I'm just like, oh my god, I love them. Pinky's so cute. I love them all. So
It's one of the greatest episodes. Everyone talks about the Christmas special for that and Hey Arnold.
And it seems like they were trying to create another moment similar to that, or at least in a similar vein of that in this season, where there are, even within 13 episodes, there are those little moments where you do see Brain actually care, even if it's for a blip. And I think it's even in the Bride of Frankenstein kind of episode, the Bride of Pinky, that it was kind of funny. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but it's when Pinky is mourning, you know, losing his bride at the end, and Brain is actually, like, looking concerned and wants to comfort him. He's trying to figure out, do I put my hand on his shoulder?
yeah, and then he was just like, should
and
I
then he
kiss
looks
him?
like,
And I'm just like, oh god,
the
no.
moment I saw him pucker his lips, I'm like, Brain, what are you doing?
They know what they're doing.
And just because that little blip of a moment comes out of left field just all of a sudden, because you just are not used to seeing it from other things. I mean, yeah, you're maybe used to seeing it, like, you know, in those little moments of compassion, but that was like, oh. So, but then it's just like but either way, it's kind of nice that they do show more of that connection even within a 13 episode span. But especially when the moment that Pinky asks, you know, you always want to take over the world, but I never know why you want to take over the world. And you can see that moment in Brain's eyes, just that, like, kind of just the cornered, I've been found out, just like, and also realizing, did I ever really stop and think why I did this in a long, you know, or it's the first time in a long time I've thought about why I do what I do. Because it's like, he knows the how, not the why. And
Let me
until
just
he
say
really
now,
thinks about it.
Let me just say now, I'm 120% for, like, them actually turning this into, like, a whole character arc where they, like, grow to be genuine friends instead of just, like, blips in there. Like, shipping them, I'm like, okay, I get it, I guess, internet. Like, I'm not sure if they're gonna go there 120%, but, you know, like, genuine friends, like, at the end of the day, like, that would fill my little, like, KP heart, and I'd be okay with that, so. Because especially at this point, like, you know, it's kind of time. Like, if like let's make that the end goal. Like, that would be cool.
I mean, the violent nature is going to make that at least a little bit weird.
Which part?
I don't know if that's the plan, but that's kind. But I do think even in the old shows there was always little bits of that, where he give, and I think that it's even in more than just that one episode where. You see little bits, like I think even in the one where, like, his future self comes back and wants him to kill Pinky and he won't do it.
Exactly. I thought a lot about that one too. And in the moment where his future self is going, you gotta kill him. He's the only thing standing in your way of world domination.
And I genuinely had a thing where it's like, I bet, like, this, it almost seems like over determination, like not just that he probably killed his own Pinky, but I bet that he actually like he wants to convince himself that that was the right thing to do, so he needs the past one to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yep, it was totally the right thing that we have to get rid of all Pinkies. Maybe it's because he thinks that, and maybe it's because Pinky's an idiot. Maybe it's because Pinky is his weakness and it's a piece of his emotions. And it's like, no, I mean, he's half robot now. He needs to kill
Yeah.
off all of his emotions to achieve, absolute stoic perfection.
And
Okay.
considering that Pinky and Brain are a balance of, I guess you could say, like in a way, they're the balance of the brain and the heart. Obviously,
Right.
being like, Brain is logical, Pinky is very emotional and very sensitive, and so it's like they're just like a literal embodiment of the two. And saying that where one is going to dominate the other or completely obliterate the other, it's showing that they need each other to balance each other out, because just like we all need logic and we all need heart at the same time, that to have one completely shut out the other shows how destructive it can be to the psyche. So it's like, I thought that was it was a really interesting thing, even though, obviously not the first time we've seen, oh, here's a future self coming back to try and change the past, but to see Brain kind of face himself, where it's like himself telling himself that, and it's just, it was...
I feel. Totally to change the mood. So did you guys catch the porn reference?
Yes.
You mean what they use the internet for?
Yeah.
The fact that Pinky knows too much about that part.
No, and then he just kind of accepts it too. He's just like, okay, humans are weird.
I do know, but I shouldn't say it.
Like, honestly, one thing that I could have used, like, if you want to talk about, like, little bits that I recognize that were differences from the old show, not that I completely get that this has a lot of very respectful callbacks, and I don't expect this to be exactly like the old show because there's too much about it, like, different time, different technology, different pipeline, all of that's true. I will say that one thing that I was kind of keeping my eye out for is that I kind of wish there were slightly more good night everybody moments.
Yeah, I guess they were trying to test the waters to see how much they could get away with the good night everybody's, considering they're trying so many other things in terms of like biting satire and parody.
And there's stuff in there where you see like they definitely are trying to go for the same vibe, but they're also not trying to do a copy paste job. So they're definitely relying on a lot of the other like ongoing jokes, like Brains pondering and at least a couple of the old, like there's like never once does Wacko do it gooky, which I'm okay with because I never thought that joke was that funny.
I'll just think of a couple of the jokes that I loved, and then I guess we can go in order from there because I think we're just gonna ramble on incoherently. Lauren, did you like the Glendale joke? Because that was the one I cried at.
Yes, I was cracking up so much. If you're talking about where they're traveling to go get the soda at the mom and pop shop, to travel from Burbank to Glendale, and it's just like this long, arduous trek. For people
they get in a plane at one point.
Like for people who don't live in LA.
Like me, like
the joke is they are right next to each other, okay? But it does seem like there is a certain disconnect. But and on top of that, there is an airport in Burbank. It's Bob Hope, so it's so if anything, it does make sense that they got on a plane. But it is even funnier that yes, the distance is they are right next to each other. But yeah, it's I loved actually all the Burbank and Glendale jokes in particular. Just, I mean, it seems like they tried to infuse a lot more LA humor into it because it's I think especially because it comes back to where they don't have the supporting characters there, that they're able to go back to the Warners a lot more and them being at the lot, and so they're able to focus a lot more on Burbank jokes and Hollywood jokes because that's where they're at. Otherwise, unless they otherwise change the time period, like the like the Odyssey or in the French Revolution. So it's like it was honestly really great though to see so many more references to the area, and especially some like really niche ones. You just kind of have to watch them a few times to catch them.
Yeah, a lot of it was just like, aha, I get it, but aha, oh man, COVID, I hate this. So, yeah.
Right. That future telling joke, right? That one where they guess the future and we're all in bunkers and masks and things are on fire.
The only thing is I wish we had polar bear overlords.
God, I wish. It would be so much easier.
And how about that reboot song too? I mean, they didn't hold back at all on that, especially the shameless appropriation on Old Boy.
Oh yeah,
my God.
That was the big thing that I thought was the most deserved slap.
Yeah.
And I bet that's something, I don't even know how old that would have been at the time that they did that. In general, like we definitely like that like every single cartoon reviewer is going to get so much mileage out of that song. We are going to use it so often, and it's so appropriate. And if there's absolutely one thing that anyone can say about the reboot is that every single song is amazing.
It is
that it's incredible. The only thing that I noted that I would have liked to see in the reboot song is that despite the fact that it's all basically just the fact that reboots exist, but they take slaps at what I would call good reboots, which are like Queer Eye and DuckTales. Nothing about Disney live action remakes.
Well, they did the That's So Raven thing, but it wasn't really a take. It was just like a lyric in the song. So
yeah, but if you're gonna talk about like soulless regurgitations, that's literally what the Disney remakes are.
Yeah, I think
and this is
about at the very least trying to get away with was their Warner Brothers, because I mean on the lot and how many shows they film on the Warner Brothers lot, at least that's as far as I think they were trying to get away with for now.
Right, and even just the thing where they basically make the Justice League zombie. It's like, yep, still trying to make that DC universe work.
Oh, on top of that, not just in the reboot thing, but throughout the season, all the Zack Snyder jokes, I can't believe they made so many digs on top of, there's a point where there's a Warner Brothers studio lot tour going on, and the tour guide goes, on your left is a soundstage where they filmed Batman, and everyone's just like, ooh, versus Superman. Oh.
I just think it's probably just one of Warner Brothers' biggest shame, and that's literally what's all in like the Lego Batman movie. It's like their biggest successes in superhero movies for the past couple of years has been making fun of their failures. And at the same time, like I still think like it's perfectly fine. I don't know if there's any particular reason why they didn't. I'm just saying there's so much Disney stuff they could be poking at, and they don't, and I don't know why, because this is the one of the things that I remember very prominently about the old show was the jab was like the same old heroine song from the Jokahana segment. They took a lot of shots at Disney, and one thing that I actually because Animaniacs' whole thing is there's a lot of reference humor to like classic Hollywood, which of course young kids wouldn't get a lot of those, but I remember really appreciating having the couple of segments, if they do say that this is supposedly still technically for kids, to take some shots at things that kids would recognize. Because I remember being very appreciative, not only just recognizing the Pocahontas, but the fact that they destroyed Barney in the old show. That was a big thing, especially for growing kids that were getting too old for Barney, appreciated a lot.
I do gotta say though, it's been really cool to see, because I've been seeing clips of it being uploaded onto Twitter, at least the progress shots of all the different animators who worked on the anime segment, which was obviously very Studio Trigger influenced. The anime fight in the bunny episode.
This is great.
Admittedly, it's one of those segments where where I feel like you could have put that in the middle of like almost any of the segments where it's the Warners against an enemy.
Mhm.
Which I'm okay. Which again, like I'm not gonna give it that much flack for, just because it's a really cool segment, and I'm glad that it's there, and it's excellent, and even though say like there's no joke, it's pretty much there just to be there, and it's like yeah, and it's awesome, so shut up. It's like, and I actually do think that I do think that there is something of a joke that Dot has this really beautiful magical girl transformation, and then pretty much instantly kind of gets slapped. Because like it would have been even funnier if she had gotten hit during the magical transformation sequence because it was so long. But I think they wanted to actually finish it.
Because I mean, that would have been even funnier because it would have delivered upon the criticism that everybody makes about magical girl transformations. I'm like, what? You're gonna wait that 30 seconds while your opponent transforms and goes through this whole dramatic sequence? Like, no, you hit them when they're in the middle of transforming. What are you doing?
Right, but like I appreciate it. I'm good with it there. I don't care if it's pointless.
I do like that it is a joke with build up, and then it builds up to just being slapped down, like you said.
Right. But yeah, the over the top that's something too anime, like over the top posturing, but then a lot of very Dragon Ball Z, but then they do all of this big screaming and power moves, and then they get their butts kicked. It's good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I personally, and also just, I know we didn't get as, to a certain degree, a lot of the, like you said, with Yakko not having certain lines said as much and jokes as much in the original, like the recurring jokes, like the good night everybody's and stuff. But he does have some really great one-liners. One of my personal favorites, and I've been seeing it circulating as well, so apparently it's a popular thing, was in the French Revolution episode. When Marie Antoinette's like, this is why it's so tough to be rich, and he's like, because your only other nickname is Dick.
No, there's some really great jokes. There's really great lines. I'm not saying that it's like a problem that he doesn't have that. Just that was one of those things that I was. If they're, I'm glad they didn't rely on too many reoccurring jokes. There's just enough to show that they like know what they're doing. And they know these characters. I actually really liked the I mean, I don't know how the Halloween episode went down with you guys in some segments, but there's the whole Pennywise crack, which I think they could, and granted that's another thing from the old show, is Wacko's clown phobia was a really hilarious bit of physical comedy, and the fact that they go straight to just acknowledging it and go, oh, but this guy's adorable. It's like, oh, could have used some more clown violence. But at the same time, I thought it was really funny that they get into all of their individual fears. And he gets to Yakko, and Yakko's fear is telling a joke and getting no response.
I'm like, you sure that's not just Rob Paulson's inner fear, and they just let Yakko have that?
Right. Right. I also noticed, like, and again, this is not a criticism, just something I noticed, because, like, Yakko's doing a lot more yelling in this reboot than he ever did in the old one.
Again, I feel like that's Rob Paulson saying, I want to do more of that.
I get that. I thought it was really funny. It's just something I noticed. Like, I don't remember him being quite this loud.
It seemed like there was also, like you kind of mentioned it earlier, was there, like, they're a little bit more antagonistic. It seems like even with each other, they have a little bit of that rivalry, even more than they did in the original show. Like, the points where they, I think especially in that first episode when Wacko's uses the battering ram on the water tower, and then just like when he's all dazed and confused after they realize they just have to pull the door open rather than push it, and Yakko just like slaps Wacko to the ground. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it goes by so quickly, so it's like you don't have to dwell on it too long, but it just seems like there isn't more of those episodes and moments where they seem to have more of an actual sibling rivalry and than they did in the original show. I don't know. I feel
I'm recalling the pun gun now. And things initially I'm not sure. Like, I feel like there must have been at least a little bit more of that in the old show, but now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I don't think it was so much inter-sibling violence. It was
Yeah,
more like
that's-
it was
yeah,
more
that
like
does-
them against the other guys, and that's still there. But it's interesting to see them actually take shots at each other.
And again, I think especially when you're focused more on them this time around, rather than having all of the different segments taking up time.
Right.
It's almost like because they have to carry, and they even joke about it in one of the episodes. They're like, "We're running out of ideas," and like I didn't like we're carrying so much more of the weight on this show than before because we didn't have all the supporting cast.
Right. And again,
So
I like the siblings. Give me as much of that as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So I still remember, like, yeah, they had still bits of that in the old show. I remember the cute song where where like Dot's singing about how cute she is, and the other brother's talking about how gross it is, how she's singing about being cute, and she's like, "You guys shut up." and then also the Beauty and the Beast segment too. That had a whole thing where they gave each other so much. The entire joke of that is that they will not stop arguing with each other, and it's interrupting takes.
That's true. But yeah, it was I was gonna say, I guess we could technically go back and go into the songs a bit too, because in a way, when you said the cute segment, I also was thinking of the reboot's own cute segment, which was a musical number when Dot becomes like a chibi cute character because she ingests a freaking chibi cupcake and and turns everything in the world cute and rainbow colored and bubbly and adorable, and then everybody just loses their minds because they've been stuck in cute hell for like 30 days.
It's like, God, it's like we're living in Akihabara for 2 weeks.
Man, like, I would have just kept it, like, I don't want to lick that pigeon. Like, that was disgusting. Like, I get it, but...
And then I was thinking, yeah, it kind of segueing into that is the gross out humor. I feel like this time around,
yeah,
because we're in a different day and age, there is so much more gross out humor and gross physical comedy used in this reboot. So it's like, especially like the licking the dirty pigeon, or just
the way that Arnold Schwarzenegger,
like gross body
like,
anatomy or anything like that. It's
lipped.
like where they try to put warts, or they put splotches, or they focus, or they make a boil have a they made a zit have a personality, and when he cries he oozes like pus out of his eyes, and I'm like, oh god.
I mean, the guy who helmed this worked on Family Guy for a long time. There's a piece of me that kind of gets that. There's also a thing where, like, yeah, the big thing is that the human designs in this are even more than the original characters. The human designs are very different than what they used to be. At the same time, I kind of appreciate. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna appreciate that they go for slightly more of an exaggerated take on kind of everybody, including the women. The women aren't just all copies and pastes of Hello Nurse. So I appreciate that.
No, I love that too. No, I definitely love that, because again, character design is all about variety and being able to tell by a silhouette who is who. And that they play with that so much more in this. It's honestly really great.
No, yeah, there's a lot of directions here that I'm glad that they did at least some experimentation, even if that not all of that experimentation worked. The important thing is that they did keep a general core of what the Warner siblings and Pinky, and especially Pinky and the Brain, are. And they did that in a way, like, I'm gonna be honest, I honestly expected the backlash to this to be way worse than what it at least right now seems to be. Maybe it's coming, I don't know. Right now people just seem to be really on board, and I'm glad to see that.
I think also too, like, they diffuse their own backlash, like, in the theme song, so...
Right, yeah, no, I love that about the opening, how they kind of addressed, like, what was probably going to be their 2 biggest criticisms, which was getting rid of the cast, making things a little bit more PC, and the fact that people are going to talk about, we've done the meta thing. It's like, yeah, we know that you've done the meta thing, and we know that every single cartoon that came after us has also done the meta thing, but we're about trying to at least keep in touch with our roots, and our roots is being meta.
Yeah, just there was so much that they, obviously it's almost like covering tracks that they did in this version, and again, it does come with the experience of 22 years of hearing this kind of stuff, over 22 years if you consider all the people talking during the run of the show, but especially in the age of internet discourse, it's really funny to see how they're kind of just covering tracks and covering all the ground that after seeing years and years of it online, they're like, okay, we're ready for whatever comes, because we've seen it all by this point.
Right. And they did this then too. They have that entire segment with the then neckbeard version of the troll. That was doing all of the nitpicking, and then they had the Please Get a Life Foundation. Like, that was in the 90s. That was before social media. That was like right when the internet was becoming a thing with just chat rooms. And they had that gag and also the Tiny Toons Halloween special where they were all about, about not just the nitpickers, but the creepy guys that are way too into the female characters.
I do kind of miss Hello Nurse, but I get it, so.
It's like, we'll see if they find a creative way of implementing her in season 2.
It seemed like they tried
I get a
to
vibe,
like, they made the jab in the Russian episode, which I actually, of all of the segments, I think that one was my least favorite. It just didn't hook me as much, and I think it's just because I'm so jaded and done with all the Russian jokes, because by the time they were writing all these jokes, it was 2 years ago. By now, all those jokes are kind of tired out, and I mean, again, you can't fault the writers on that when they were writing these at the time, 2 years ago. So, if not a little bit before that. But otherwise, I mean, they were pretty spot on a lot of the jokes and still very timely with a lot of their humor. Like you said, in true fashion, they predicted a lot of stuff.
Right, and I don't even think that they were trying to exaggerate, and they clearly didn't exaggerate enough. Because little did they know. The one thing I got is that, again, the stuff with Russia, is I was kind of surprised by how hard they hit on that. I mean, granted, that was kind of a big
consistently.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that was a big thing. The report and that whole thing was a thing that was going on at the time. So that would be fixated. But also, I think there's also probably a conscious effort that they did hit on it hard, because they knew that this would be coming out in 2020, and that 2020 would be the next election. So they figured. Right. So they probably figured that it was going to still be relevant news to talk about the biggest controversy from the last election. Little did they know that we would be dealing with our own stuff, and that Russia would not be our top priority in terms of election controversies that we would want to deal with. So that's also why, like, there's so much election stuff here, and there's also, like, the Olympics, because, hey, the Olympics were going to be a thing in 2020. Remember that?
Rip.
I know, it's really sad, actually.
Yeah, the bunkering down was definitely right. Right on the nose. No, wish it was polar bears. Wish it was polar bears.
I just think of just like them singing about how Trump might not be in office. I'm just like, oh, what a peaceful time if we could have gotten out 2 years earlier, you know?
I mean, there's nothing they could have done to predict that. It's like, at least if it would have been polar bears, everyone could have agreed that they were things that actually existed.
I was gonna say, in relevancy to the songs that were for the show, I was thinking about how they did the First Ladies one, and how I really hoped for more out of it. I'm glad they did it.
Yeah.
But I kept hoping for so much more rather than name them off, list them off. And it's like, I know you only have 2 minutes to do it, but oh, come on.
And then they still didn't get to all of them.
We had a whole president song. Yeah, that was pretty funny when they were like, for the one we forgot. And they say just like, I'm like, okay, that was pretty funny. Because it was a callback to the segment right before that, which was, I think it was, if I remember the same episode, with the zit saying, I only lasted a week or something, and they say like, rest in peace, zit, I only last a week. But it was, but yeah, but it seemed like so many of the other songs really were well done, but I think that was one of the letdowns, was the First Lady's one, that I hoped for more out of it. I don't know, maybe they'll have a second go at it, because it is in the show's nature to sometimes tread over old ground, be like, you know what, we didn't do this right the first time. What's wrong about going back to it and trying to do it bigger and better? So I don't know. It's again, meta humor, but
Right. We'll see. Like, in general, like, their song work is usually some of the best stuff that they've done. And it still is here.
Speaking of that, did you guys like all the shade that Yakko got for the Nations of the World song?
So, no, I appreciate it. No, I honestly really got that thing in the Olympic segment where he goes, like, you should know something about taking all the credit. And I'm like, that's something that especially hit me, because I love the states. I literally memorized Wacko States and Capital song to do my tests. I actually brought a VHS into school to share with my classmates. So I always think, like, everyone gets, like, really big against the countries of the world song. It's like, the States and Capital song is cool too.
I keep hoping that because with when Animaniacs went on tour in concert, I want to say like a few years ago, it was kind of like an ongoing tour where they had a certain set of dates. But Rob Paulson also obviously was part of that whole troupe, because they had everybody involved. And he did the updated Nations of the World song, which got shared online as well. He recorded it at home or whatever and shared it on his own social media and stuff like that. I keep hoping that whether it be in season 2 or whatnot, that they do the updated Nations of the World song and have it animated, because
I was kind of expecting them to.
Yeah,
but if that's a plan,
they
for
had
later.
it all written out, so there it is.
Go get it.
It's like that was like literally one of the easiest things they could have done.
It was gift wrapped. But yeah, there was a lot that I really like overall enjoyed. I do have to ask though, as we kind of go around here, any favorite segments in particular that you had? If it's not one specifically, you can say like there was a few or whatnot. But
let me think.
Or maybe there was a song that you liked. I know we talked about moments that we enjoyed, but I think maybe
I still like the Brain backstory thing, and I'm like low key like hoping that we get some like character arcs, because zany and fun is nice, but it's also nice when we have like build up of actual story, like a little bit, and like that's the way you can do it. As far as like, I think it was just refreshing for, like I said, for someone to point out all the bad stuff that's been happening or has happened in the last 4 or 5 years between political nonsense and, it was just like refreshing. And I'm just like, well, if the cartoon characters are making fun of it, then, it's probably, we probably shouldn't do this, guys. I agree with you, Lauren, that the Russian thing was kind of like, and it was kind of like a little bit stereotypical, like
really stereotypical, and then I can't help but think about, and then I couldn't help but think about, when you compare the show in the 90s versus now, and when you do a racial stereotype, it doesn't go over as well in 2020 as it did in the 90s. Just saying. And so I can't help but think of all of the Russian, and
the poor Russians
that are just looking at this like, why are we depicted like this still in 2020? Look, we're not perfect, and our government is far from perfect. But why are you hating on us like this?
There always seems to be this thing where like comedians are used to having a target, and then that target ceases to become as like capitalistic as it used to be. And then I think there's a point where, especially if you've been in the industry for a really long time, and then you get to the whole thing with the Russians and the election, and there's literally like this intake of breath with comedians all around the world that goes, we get to make fun of Russians again. It's like, let's break out all that Cold War stuff. And it's like, yep, that sure aged well. Good job, guys.
Oh my god. The cheese thing, that was stupid. I get it, but it was a little stupid. And then the whole, like, I think the other thing, they stuck a Leroy Jenkins meme in there, and I'm just like,
come on. I mean, I could let that one slide because I thought it was funny that it's like just 2 seconds, and I'm like, and then just everyone going, wow, a Leroy Jenkins joke in 2020, what a time.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of those kind of like one-dimensional reference things are always pretty hit and miss, but there's something that's kind of related when people talked about Sonic flossing in the Sonic movie. It's like, nope, Sonic was kind of always that hip character that would do like contemporary TikTok stuff. That's kind of the kind of character he is. It actually makes total sense for him to do that. And the whole thing about Pinky is that Pinky is obsessed with like contemporary celebrities way more than Brain is. That he's always on the pulse of pop culture more than Brain. So yeah, making a really lame pop culture reference is exactly the kind of thing that Pinky would do.
It's very on brand. And especially when you think about he spends all his time on social media. He knows how it works. He spends all his time on the internet. He knows it. That's why I'm like, why do you think he knows what the internet's used for? So it's like he's Pinky 2.0, where he's still you know, he's still the heartfelt dunce from the 90s, but he's got that savviness of, you know, this is how smarts. This is how the, you know, this is the internet, this is social media, this is how it all works, this is how people communicate now, and that's what people he knows what people want and understands what they want, and especially when it fulfills an emotional need. And versus Brain, who overthinks everything and is very calculative, but that's why it's like he ends up being a wealth of information without really thinking too hard about it to Brain, so that he can adapt every plan that he has to the new world that he's in. So
right,
and so that Pinky is, again, it's kind of like when even Brain saying, Pinky, you're a genius, at the point where he's basically asking questions to the brain bot, to the brain droid or whatnot, you know, basically asking a question that's like dividing by 0.
Right.
If I eat myself, would I be twice the size, or would I completely disappear?
Oh gosh. My other favorite thing is the dragon bit. There was a joke. Okay, also dragon reminded me kind of Discord, with like just the way he was built, and then he's even got like the goatee thing on the bottom of his mouth, and
Thank Genevieve for that one. That was her
design. I'm just like, I wonder if she did that on purpose or not. But anyway, the other thing where Pinky was just like, Brain, you don't like the arts, you just say the Renaissance is French for bull, and it was obviously supposed to be bullshit, and I'm just like, oh my god. Like, I miss characters that are aware of, like, how crude the world is, but they just kind of self-censor themselves, versus, you know, those just things don't exist. You know, where in reality, where I'm just like, you know, like, even though it's a cartoon world, you know, you still got sex, because Pinky is cognitive of it, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to think about it too much, but, you know, these proportions just don't work. But yeah, I don't know. The only thing I kind of was like about was Arnold Schwarzenegger guy dude, man. Like, he was annoying. But points for getting the honest trailer dude to voice the unicorn. So that was a thing that happened.
Yeah,
generally that's
terrible news of war.
I mean, generally those are the kind of sketches that I honestly like better. The ones where they're just being wacky kids going after an asshole.
I agree.
So honestly, seeing that, or like slightly less so Odysseus, where it's just we're just being chaotic, crazy people against douchebags, and it's like, yep,
at
more
least
of that.
It's justified, you know. Because you're just like, oh, I want this guy to fail because he's annoying and he needs to get a life. I was surprised he came back at the very end, though, for the soda.
I genuinely don't expect that, because usually they don't.
Yeah. We're running low on
But it's good to see another new and recurring character, just like they would have for Julia, and just like they would have for other characters that they seem to hint at. But at the very least, if they establish them well enough in these little one-shots, it's like they at least have potential to be brought back. And I have a feeling like they will, it's because so many people I see are commenting on Benedict and how much they love him, that it's like he's possibly a potential. If they see that the fan response is good enough, I feel like that they would bring him back.
And they're paying attention, like, I mean, like, obviously they are. Like, the whole thing about, like, the chicken, like, oh, you're the least popular character on fan Wikipedia, and I'm just like, oh, too close.
Poor Chicken Boo. I actually liked him, mostly because it was just hilarious that usually he would be in a very plain, like, flat-out disguise. Like, the best disguise he's ever worn, where you never would figure it was him, was the disguise in the reboot where he was disguised as the hunter, and you never would have thought it was him.
Right.
But his reveal is hilariously grotesque. Just...
So that's actually one thing I like that turnaround. And again, another spontaneous Yakko scream where he talks about bottoms of everyone's fan list. As a way to get, like, under his skin. At the same time, it's just weird that for the entire joke was that he was a chicken and he obviously looked like a chicken, that all of a sudden now he knows how to wear an actual man suit.
Exactly.
Under his skin, you get it? Sorry. I thought you did that on purpose.
I didn't, but that's actually great.
I'm also amused at the part where it shows all the characters are still alive, the ones that were supposedly mounted on the walls, and all you can
thank
think
God,
is,
right?
were they just sitting there and they just had to be, like, forced to be frozen with their heads sticking through a hole in the wall with a mount around their neck?
Well, they're cartoons.
Years?
Cartoons are used to being, basically incinerated, and they're going to be fine. So it's just a cartoon thing. It's like, you forgot to apply the dip. Now they're still alive.
But I thought that was pretty funny.
I'm trying to think, and props for trying to get the animation style to work, because it looks like that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, but that was in Toon Boom, right? Like, the show was animated in Toon Boom?
I believe so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It seems like, because nowadays it seems more studios are trying to adopt Toon Boom as the new standard, which I knew it was going to eventually. It was just a matter of making sure it was affordable and that more people were able to have it. And if they had to freelance out animation, which as far as I can tell, they did have to for this reboot, based off of all the animators I was seeing working on it. Like, they definitely had to have worked on it from home, kind of thing. Right. So they had to have access to that kind of stuff. And now I guess it's more accessible to have Toon Boom.
Which is why we're going to get a minor animated renaissance out of this whole COVID thing.
Oh, absolutely. We've already been in the swing of it, and it's only just going to keep going from here, which is, it's really cool. It's an exciting time, honestly, to see what's coming out in this age of where you don't have to be in a studio. You can be doing it from home while still being signed on by a studio.
Right, and you're not acting
hard enough.
Right, and you're not acting like with other actors on a set. I actually noticed that there was when One Day at a Time got picked up again by a different website that was not Netflix. And they had an episode and I think because of COVID, they had an episode that they had just animated. That essentially took, like, a bottle episode script and just animated the characters in weird ways. It did seem a little bit like a rush job, but that's just what they decided. It's just what they decided to do. And they were also self-aware about it. It's like, nope, we did this because diseases.
Yeah, I feel, but Toon Boom, like, the thing I wanted to give credit for too is, like, Toon Boom works really well when it's just, like, puppet based kind of things, when it's just, you're just moving the characters. It's very, like, systematic as far as not too many extreme expressions. It's just a matter of putting the right expression in the right frame. But, like, they had to have, like, I imagine they had to have such like a crap ton of keyframes to like make this work to look like it's frame by frame. So, you know, good job, guys. You did it. You know, it just probably took forever, but you did it. So, which I imagine you know, at least maybe like significantly complicated the production process for this versus just doing it like if they just did it as a regular puppet based show. But, you know. Do you guys, I think we're getting to the end, so do you guys have any closing thoughts about anything that we haven't discussed yet?
I think it's just, I guess closing thoughts would be just overall I'm very hopeful for the show going forward, because this was a really strong start. I mean, the nitpicks that I have are exactly that, nitpicks.
Right.
And and just like any joke that you could put in there, it's throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what's gonna stick.
Right.
And especially when they're in this new age of Animaniacs, where they came from, they're all about satire and parody and doing it and pulling off all these jokes that you couldn't believe they would try to pull off in a kids show, when it's actually what loops it into being a family show, because the adults are going to be watching this.
But now we can say hell. So,
and it just in general, I'm very happy that they had a really strong start, given they could, what they were working with going into this reboot. That I'm looking forward to seeing what else they come up with, and where they improve upon what they already laid out. And yeah, I mean, it feels very true to its roots. And it just, it felt like I think for a lot of people, it felt like, while the times have changed and the satire and parody have changed, they themselves, the Animaniacs themselves, didn't really have to feel like that they changed all that much in terms of personality, in terms of like the way they carry themselves. It still felt true to what they were.
We didn't need an Animaniacs version of Lunatics.
Yeah, which they took jabs at, which was
so
great.
Happy about that.
In the cartoon's Right to Vote song. Just really funny seeing that Lunatic Scotty shout out at that moment. And it's funny because I do remember watching that show as a kid. And yes, I did think it was kind of a weird premise, but not the worst thing I could have watched, I guess.
Yeah, and in the reboots they did a joke about that too, where the reboot song where the Looney Tunes are zombies, so like zombie franchise, you get it?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I in the end, I'm very happy with what they had so far, and I look forward to what else they can do and what else they have to say as the times continue to change. And I know it takes time to write the jokes and then animate after that, so yeah, I know time will pass, but it'll be interesting to see what happens as we go forward in general in the world and seeing what they have to say about it.
So what do you any closing thoughts on your end?
I think I got most of my main things good. I had if people, granted, if somebody told me that they had issues with this reboot, I would kind of get where they were coming from. But at the same time, like, I think it looks great. I laughed, which was the main thing that I was going for, and they seem to at least tangentially know what they were doing.
Right.
It'll, like, bits and pieces aside. No, I enjoyed it, and if a season 2 is already guaranteed, I'll be interested to see what that looks like and what they'll do now that they don't have to focus on the election so much.
Oh God! If only we're almost there. We're almost there. Just chugging along. But yeah, I think we needed an Animaniacs, and we kind of always did in a way because of just how reaffirming they are, just about our society in general, not only just the political stuff, but and someone can kind of call out and just make fun of just the zany stuff, especially when you are a kid and you're just I hate this. I need someone to comment on this thing that is stupid in the life. And, that we're just all not totally crazy as far as just noticing all these different trends and like what's working, what's not working. But yeah, I guess to end, or like pseudo to end. So if you haven't seen it, I probably came in as far as on this episode with the least amount of Animaniacs knowledge, but that's still like a good chunk because I'm me and like I just absorb everything. So, and I still enjoyed it. So I think if you're new to the franchise, you'll still be good. And if you're old to the franchise, there's like nitpicks that are different as far as just the nature of the Warners and you know, a little bit of different nuances for Pinky and the Brain, but you know, that's really it. Like, I hope your viewing experience isn't saddened by the fact that Pinky is aware of porn now. I'm sorry, but you know, but yeah, I feel like there was another thing I wanted to mention. Because I saw in my feed, I think Stell, you were the one who brought it up in the Twitter as far as what the original creator wasn't involved with this for some reason, and they kind of like faked him out.
Yeah, like there was an interview with him in Rolling Stones, where he basically didn't know that a reboot was done until like Maurice LaMarche like brought it up to him like casually. And he literally just didn't know. And then when he asked to be involved, they basically brushed him off. There's when these kind of things, there's always stuff people in the comments says, "Oh, I heard a source that, you know, he was the one being difficult," or I heard from a source, or WB said, "No, there was more to it than that." It's like, I'm sure that both of them are telling the version of the story that makes them the most sympathetic. And that there might be more to the story than that. I would like to say that whatever the issue is, I would still like to see him come back, because it does seem a little weird that the creator wasn't even mentioned, and it feels weird to have this new guy just come in and go basically hijack your creation without telling you.
Right.
It just feels a little off. I'm not saying that I still didn't enjoy it, but that definitely just seems like bad form. Again,
right.
I'm not there. I don't know how it went down. I would like to see it. Like, in the interview, he said that to him especially, like, the entire thing about the term Animaniacs was that he wouldn't have approved of getting rid of the whole cast, because to him, the entire cast was what Animaniacs was. And again, as I said, I actually don't mind at all that they took away a lot of the cast, because I didn't care for them. So I don't know how that would have impacted the show.
Right.
For me. But at the same time, like, just in terms of, you know, this seems like the thing that they should have done, or at least put some more effort into. Again, speculation. We'll see what happens with season 2.
Right. Yeah, I just so his name, I googled his name. His name is Tom Ruegger. So anyway, and just a heads up for people who are not aware, Steven Spielberg did not create the show. He just executive produced it, which means he hires all the people that to put he puts the ingredients into the pot, but he didn't like come up with the ingredients essentially.
Right.
Exactly.
He selects he selects the cooks, but he does not cook, really.
Right. So he's like the head chef, I guess, or something like that, but without cooking. This is a bad analogy. Anyway, yeah, my vibe is from reading the story that there's something else going on behind the scenes. You know, like Cell said, he might have wanted too much creative control, and you know, like my first thought was maybe they just wanted new blood, because this was just something that is, you know, Animaniacs in general is very dependent on, you know, what's going on in the real world, obviously, as we previously discussed. But I imagine they could just throw him a bone and like have him help out with something, because he is the creator of the thing that everyone's just excited to work on except for him.
Yeah,
so
given he should at least have some input. It is his creation, and I do agree with that. When I saw word of that, I was thrown off. I tried to not let that sour my viewing of the new Animaniacs, but yeah, trust me, it's still definitely been hanging in my mind, especially when we don't have all of the details or the facts on what is going on with that. But yeah, that would just absolutely suck. I mean, in general, just to be a creator, not have anything to do with it being brought back. It's just that
as well as like just how much they're pushing this everywhere. You know, like I know everyone's excited about this, but Hulu which I'm not sure the legalities. I know Hulu is a sub-company of Disney, but obviously Disney doesn't own Animaniacs. So there probably is just some, they own the rights to stream it or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, go ahead, Excel, do you know?
No, it's just, like, we know that whatever happened with the creator, I mean, obviously the cast is still more than enthusiastic about the reboot. Like, they're having a good time. They're having a great time with it. They apparently they believe that the new staff is, like, respectful and listening to them, and of course they're in big favor of all those artists sharing the sketches. All of those things are good things, but, like, you can be a decent production and also have made a boo-boo. Both of those things can be true.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And, like, I said this on my backup Twitter. So, but anyway, like, I feel like Steven Spielberg is, like, the nice Hollywood guy TM. Like, he's known to be incredibly nice. So I imagine this is something that he wasn't aware of, and he's just like, oh well, maybe there might be some creative differences, but there's probably some way we can work this out. I feel like at the end of the day, especially, like, the guy just sounds like he wants a piece of the pie, not monetarily wise, but creatively wise, and just wants to be involved. And I just, like, oh god, if I was in that position, I would just, like, wanna die. But, and we mentioned about how all the original voice actors are back, but I imagine, too, they're, like, in a weird position where if they decline where everyone else is in it because they're going off the creator, it's going to make them look bad, too. So they're in this weird political, like, wheelness, I guess. So they can't exactly just bow out to because they're disappointed in this unless it's like a whole strike thing going on. Anyway, go ahead.
It's always just the thing in that industry. Everybody's always torn up between work and franchises and
right.
And I mean, we know that, like, Ryan Reynolds didn't want to, but he played Deadpool in that stupid Origins movie because if he didn't, they'd get someone else.
Right. So I think the most we can do now is just be vocal about it if that's something that's bothering you, which hopefully it should bother you. And
again, reiterating that we don't know what happened, but would just like it if everybody was copacetic.
Everyone just liked each other, and there was some kind of compromise going on, ideally from what's been described. So you can look up the story yourself if you're curious, but I imagine hopefully if they get renewed again after Pro Season 2, they'll find a way to keep this guy involved, at least in some way. Like, just be a mensch, just do a good solid for him. And, hopefully we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Or any of the other original writers,
Right. But I guess we'll wrap, because we've talked about this a lot, So, Cell, do you want to plug anything? You just want to be like, hey, I exist. So.
Yep, I exist. I have a channel. You can click on the channel and see if there's anything that you are interested in clicking on.
Yep, go find CellSpex on YouTube. You frequent Twitter, anything like that, any of the social medias that people want to follow you on.
So, again, whatever they want to.
Click on the things.
Mostly click on the links. So, mostly YouTube and Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks again, Cell, for coming and chilling with us. I always enjoy having you, like, doing things with you generally. You're pretty chill, which is nice and refreshing compared to some pony people. But anyway,
and it's glad to have you back in the middle of COVID times when we had you just before all of that went down. So it's good to have you back because
good to know that we're all okay relatively. I hope that everybody's okay for their holidays.
Yeah.
Everybody stay healthy, and for the love of God, if you can help it, stay inside.
Wear a mask. Wash your hands.
Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Reach out to people to keep your sanity. We understand what you got to do to get by, just as much as you can do that is not going outside.
And, like, hopefully ethical, too. Like, please don't rob a bank because you're sad that COVID is happening, like, ideally. I know I want to murder people too, but like, we got to draw the line somewhere. Anyway,
that will not help us.
Anyway, we're just being stupid. Anyway, so if you're new to me, because I imagine a lot of you will be like, oh, Cell did a thing. Hey, KP exists. So I'm a YouTuber. I love Kim Possible a lot. Please watch the main content. It's kind of hit or miss analytically. So, and make sure you're watching the new videos too. We have this nice playlist that is non-pony. So if you're just like, oh, KP pony, then I think we have like probably 15 videos on that by now, and that's the main focus right now. So we'll keep on making more. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your mom's friends, whatever. And then this is Animation Kimmunication. We're on all the social media. Well, no, we're on all the podcasty things. So SoundCloud, YouTube. Most people listen to us on YouTube. If listen, watch, whatever. We got a cool animation loop. And then if you're like whatever, then it's more convenient to do iTunes or something. You can do that too. iTunes, Spotify, all the things. And then you can follow me at KP. Wait, I'm tired. I love KP on Twitter. If you care about that, you can click on things. But yeah, mostly spread the word about main content, because ideally it would be nice for people to care about the main content every once in a while. It's fine.
And then in the meantime, I mostly frequent Twitter, because I'd rather not be involved with even if I just do passing glances at other social media things. I literally pretty much just hang out on Twitter. So if you're looking,
she
for
draws
me
horse art that we talk about.
So I mean, it's just find me at the Abbey Roadie, and no, that art was just cuddly stuff. And this is addressing a drawing that I drew earlier and posted earlier, and it's just cute horse stuff being cute and cuddly, and KP misread it as something else, and I'm like, no, that's not even how it works.
And then we got a discussion about like, how do you know how horses do things? And then people are just like, don't you know how horses do things? And I'm just like, apparently not. Like, why is this just like a generally common like thing that people...
Long story short, we learned that KP didn't know how horses do things when the majority of people did.
I mean, I just like it's like animals, right? It's like similar, but I don't know. Like, you can get into like if they're anatomically like you
need to watch human. Watch more Animal Planet, more Nat Geo, more Discovery Channel.
Gotta get my education on about horse mating habits. Take a note from Pinky, I guess. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're new to the pod. Cell is just like, what's going on?
No, I remember that part.
Anyway, so if you're new to the podcast, I think this is like episode 30, like mid to late 30s, so we have tons of archive stuff. So if you're new, go binge. What else are you gonna do? Like, and if you're not new, go binge anyway. It's fun. There's probably one that you haven't like heard all of before, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we got lots of cool guests, and CellSpex is one of the many good ones that we've had. And I mean, we love having every one of our guests here, but it's always good to have like recurring guests. So I'm very glad we were able to have Cell back today.
Yay.
Right? Yeah, you guys can feel free to invite me when you have time.
It's COVID. Of course we got time.
We have literally nothing but time.
We're stuck in the bunker with the polar bears, remember?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's just what we'll refer to this situation now. Just
imagine now that you're hiding from the polar bears and see if that makes it cool. Like, I'm surprised that all of like the zombie preparedness people didn't kind of like freak out. It's like a trial run.
Finally, my time has come,
It's like, but the unfortunately big thing about the zombie apocalypse is that we get to invade other people's houses. That's exactly what we can't do.
Oh God. Anyway, so thanks for listening. Does someone want to do a good night, everyone?
Mwah. Good night, everybody.
There you go.
Good night, everybody.
They did it, so it's fine. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week, unless you're new, and then you can watch more things immediately. But until then, bye, everyone.
Tune in next time.
Oh, Lauren, go away.
Night, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to Animation Kimmunication on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider. We are really hoping this show makes a difference in how people view animation and media, as well as giving and providing advice for people all over the world who like or want to join the animation or media industry. If you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe and rate those 5 stars, as well as tell your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our main YouTube channel, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, and turn those notifications on. My name is Scribbler, and you have been listening to Animation Kimmunication.